Welcome to the Korbond studio at the Old Needleworks. Today we'll be doing an upcycling tutorial with an old jumper. You will need an old jumper, some scrap fabric that fits around your waist, some scissors and basic sewing equipment. With this one jumper, we are going to make 3 items. We are going to cut the torso off and make a hat. We are going to cut the sleeves off to make some arm warmers and gloves. And then with what's left at the top, we are going to make a spring dress. To start, we are going to cut the torso from our jumper. We're going to cut around 5 centimetres below the armhole. Just cut that all the way along. We are also going to cut off the arms. Now, the length that you cut off can be up to you, depending on the sleeves that you want left on the dress and depending how long you want your arm warmers to be. I'm going to do about here. Now I've folded the jumper in half and I'm going to cut the same length off the other side of the arm. So now our jumper is in 3 pieces. We have the arms, the torso and the top section. So to start off, we will make the torso into a hat. So to start off with our hat, I've turned the torso section of the jumper inside out, and I'm just going to cut along here so that we create one long piece. So this is the side seam for the jumper. So I've cut along there, and then we have one long piece which we are going to fold into 3 sections. And my head is 58 centimetres in width. Don't laugh, I know I've got a big head. So I'm measuring along my jumper to 58. Not forgetting that wool is stretchy, so I'm going to minus 2 centimetres just to allow for a little bit of stretch. So I am going to go with 56 centimetres. So I'm going to cut up 56 centimetres. Now I need to fold my my torso section into 3. So I've divided 56 centimetres into 3. That's 18.5 centimetres. So here I'm going to fold on 18.5 centimetres there, and then fold under the other side as well. So I have my torso section now in 3, folded into 3. I am now going to cut my torso section in a semicircle at the top here through all 3 layers. Here we have my semicircle cut, and if I open this out you can see that the jumper is now in an M shape. There we go, that's 3 sections for our hat that we will sew together now. So I've placed a pin in the centre of each of the arches of the hat, and the way we place the hat together is that from this centre down the arch and back up again to this centre will be sewn together. So I'm going to pin that in place. So there we are. So I've pinned in place the first 2 sections from the central piece to the central piece. So you can see there either side that's pinned in place, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the 3rd section and I'm going to pin from the central piece of this one down the arch, back up to the central piece of this one. So there we have our two cut pieces pinned together there, and then what we're left with is a gap on the other side, and again what we are going to do is pin from this half to this half, so from that central piece all the way down to this time to the very bottom of the hat and back up again to the last central piece there. So now we have everything pinned in place, so there we go, that's our last bit pinned in place there. And then if we look, all of our central pins for our arches, so all the middle of the arches, are now in the centre of our hat, so it should look like this on the top. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to overlock these seams that we've pinned in place. For the bottom of the hat, if we want this piece here to turn over, so when we wear the hat, this bottom section is turned up like so. What we need to make sure we do, so that we have a nice edge here on the outside and not an overlocked edge, is we overlock all the way down to the ribbing, which is the piece that will be folded up, and then we turn this through the other way and overlock that in the opposite direction, so that when it's turned around it will have a neat edge. Now what I will do is I will go and overlock this seam, stop, come back and show you exactly what I mean. So now we have our seams overlocked, and what we've done is we've left the bottom open here that we're going to turn up. So now what we're going to do is we're going to turn this through and pin it from the opposite side, so that this seam isn't on the same side as this seam, it's going to be on the opposite side here. So now we have the outside of our hat, and as you can see, the seam for the turn up base is on the outside and our other seams are on the inside. And I'm just going to pop it onto our model head so that you can see that the seam looks nice and neat. So here we have our finished hat with the turn up, and the seam here is nice and neat on the outside. So there's the seam on the inside there, and there's the seam on the inside there. So there we go, there's our finished hat. If you find that when you've sewn your hat together that you're getting some squared off lumps on these shapes here, just take the arch in a little bit and that will bring it closer to a head shape. But there we go, there's our finished hat. So our first piece of our upcycle jumper is complete. Now we will go on to do the gloves. So here we have our sleeve pieces to make our arm warmer length gloves, and what we're going to do is, as this part here is quite wide, that would fall off your arm if you had it on. So what we're going to do is we're just going to make this seam a little bit slimmer so that when it's on your arm it will stay on. So here we can see where I'm going to do the new seam to create a width that is even. I'll take off this bit here. I'm going to go and do it on the overlocker. If you don't have an overlocker at home, you can use a zigzag stitch. So here we have the overlocked edge, and so this is what it looks like when it's turned through, so it's nice and neat, and it's more of an arm shape now, just for gloves rather than for a jumper. So now what we're going to do, so we can put our thumb through the top of the gloves here. I'm going to do a buttonhole here and here, and then that will create a thumb hole for us to put through. And then you just need to finish the edges of the jumper here so that the wool doesn't keep unraveling. You can either use binding, or in this case what I'm going to do is I'm going to overlock and just turn that through, and hem that down, and that should stop it from coming undone. So now we have the bottom of our gloves folded up and hand sewn in place there, and a buttonhole popped in the top there, which then we can pop our thumb through, which creates our glove to keep our arms nice and warm. So now we have two parts of our upcycling project, our hat and our arm warmer gloves. Now we're going to go on to the third section. So now we have our third section where we're going to make the top piece of the jumper that's left over from making the gloves and the hat into a dress. So what we want to do with our piece of scrap fabric, we've just got a rectangle of fabric, and what we want to do is make sure that it's the same width as our jumper, which it is, with a little bit to spare. And all we're going to do is pin our rectangle fabric onto the bottom of our jumper top and sew that in place. So I have pinned the fabric to the bottom of the jumper all the way around, and I've just got to the side seam here, and then I am going to pin this together, the side seam there, and I'm going to sew all the way down the side seam before I sew on the seam between the jumper and the skirt part of the fabric. So I've waited for the side seam just to make sure that it fits all the way around the jumper there, and then obviously we need to cut the length of the skirt to the length that you want it to be. So now we have the jumper dress laid out, and what I've done is I've just moved the top section of the jumper out of the way for the moment, and I've got the side seam for the dress all pinned together here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and sew this side seam, and I've also cut it to the length that I want as well. And then once I've sewn that side seam, then I can pin in the rest of the jumper on the top seam there and sew that on as well. So here we have our basic spring dress. So the top of our jumper, and it's now sewn onto our piece of rectangle fabric, our side seam there. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add a little bit of decoration to this one around the centre there. But you can leave it just plain like that, a nice simple dress. Now for the sleeves, again you'll want to finish these off, so maybe overlocking and turning them in, or binding them just to keep the wool from unravelling. So here we have our upcycling challenge complete. We have our hat, our gloves, which we will donate to our homelessness project, where we're making hats and gloves for the homeless out of old jumpers, and then our leftover top piece of jumper that we've made into this beautiful spring dress. So the jumper part at the top will keep you nice and warm, but we've got the dress part at the bottom which will keep you cool on those spring days while we're transitioning into the summer months. So there we have it, our Korbond upcycling challenge here at the Old Needleworks.